Hi everyone and welcome back to the Paperless Movement YouTube channel. Today I will talk to the CEO and founder of Nimbus Node. And this will be a really interesting talk because they're a real Evernote competitor, they're alternative, or you name it as you want to name it, because they are ticking so many boxes in different areas where Evernote is really strong in, especially like the web clipper and how you manage your notes. And they're already feature-wise ahead of Evernote, so this will become a really interesting topic. And obviously we will talk also about the comparison between Nimbus and Evernote and what their plans are and so on. And I cannot wait to start to talk to Pavel today. And as usual, this episode is sponsored by you, my Inner Circle members. So I thank you very much for your consistent support. I couldn't do this without your support. And if you're not an Inner Circle member yet and you want to improve your productivity system to the next level, then make sure to join us, because we are here to help you to get everything more efficient and make your productivity system a well-oiled machine. But now, without further ado, let's dive into the interview. All right, everyone. I think we get started now. I have Pavel here on the show, the CEO and founder of Nimbus Node. And really, especially when we look at development of Evernote, Nimbus was always in the background to me. I tested it a half a year ago once, but they made so many updates recently as well that I'm really happy to have you on the show. I also published already a video about this where I made a review about Nimbus. So if you want to check this out, go ahead. But now let's dive into it. Pavel, thank you very much for joining the interview. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Tom. I really appreciate it. I also want to personally welcome your community, your paperless movement. So it's not just some idea; it's a movement, and I think it's really great and unique. I think people are going to watch us on YouTube, on a podcast, the other channels. So hello everyone. I'm the founder and the CEO of the company.
What is Nimbus? When we was founded? What's your role in the whole thing? What was the intention actually by started? Because it is very similar to things like Evernote or even Notion when we look at this. And how do you think this is the right time for Nimbus Node?
As the company, we started in 2014. We built other products. A lot of them were very popular. Some of them were acquired. And the Nimbus Node for us, it was back then a research and development product, because we really didn't want to jump in right into that. So first of all, what we wanted to know is to analyze and think what we shall do and what we shouldn't do. That's also very important. So we got enough experience, and I think in 2017, that's where we fully shifted to just a Nimbus Node. Mm-hmm. And we started with the structure and the core foundation. So we didn't want to get into a situation when you build a product for personal use, B2C, and then you're thinking, okay, now I need to grow. Okay, what shall I do? I'll try to figure out how to put a business model on them. Okay, and then I need the enterprise. So you build another one and it becomes very shaky. So since the beginning, since we already have other great players on the market, as you mentioned, Notion and Evernote and others, so for us, we got this time frame to analyze and think upfront on the next steps, because there are some things that you can't change totally, or you're going to have such a huge problem changing that. Yeah. And just besides UX, changing just some legacy codes, which is also very challenging. The things like structure, you can't change it, especially when you already have users that used to certain things, and just bring something totally new, it's going to be very challenging. So that's why we took our time.
But how far can you actually plan this ahead? There's always this unknown variable about new technologies coming out, new platforms and infrastructures coming out in the future. How do you include this? I mean, Evernote actually had this issue, isn't it? Was it just bad planning 20 years ago, or was it just a thing that the time was just too long now?
Yeah, I watched your previous video with Ian. I personally really like him. He's a very legitimate guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
What they've done actually was a right decision, and I was just like wondering why it just happened in 2018.
Yeah.
But he made the right decision. But the thing is about is when I say a structure, it's not only a technical development side. Some your background, your backend services, the way how you synchronize data, the way how your app looks. It also the way how you create a structure for your end users. And I think one of the problems that Evernote had, but that's my personal opinion. They started with the B2C model for personal use, and that's why. And then later on they brought a business model. I don't know if they have enterprise model. So I think if you build a foundation that's gonna work perfectly for all models, and no one will gonna struggle. Like everyone gets what they really need. In this case, you can then scale and change technical side. So let's say we want to bring more features for business users, for teams. Well, we have a good structure. We just need to add some additional functionalities. In this case, nobody got into such like situations when they get kind of stuck. So I think that's what we've achieved really well. And for us now, once we have all this foundation, we just go deep into the product specifically. And that's why we're building a community-driven product. That's our key approach, is that our product is a part of the community, and we do a lot of things with the community. So before building something, we need to understand what actual people need, not want. I think we need, because sometimes people, they actually don't know what they need. And the mission of Nimbus Node is to bring a freedom to you or to your team or business in one centralized place, so that makes sense, and it's all driven by community. And just to give you an example is what we are doing right now, and I don't think that other founders do so. Well, to my knowledge, is we have a private group right now that just in 10 days grew from 300 people to 1,200 people, and they're all businesses, as all SMBs, solopreneurs, and we have a weekly meetings, a webinar in a format of the talk show. Okay. So basically, I and a co-host, it's like on a TV what you have, and we talk. And every week, I report to the community what we've done through this week, what challenges we have. I personally and my team, we go through all comments. We aggregate the most comments through that week, all concerns, and we talk about it. And the end of the webinar, our show, we invite people live to join us. So that's not like pre-recorded. That's a live.
Yeah.
And people raise their concerns. So they don't only praise us saying like, hey, we like your product, we like a community. We don't, it's great, but that's not the whole idea. We actually want to hear real feedback. And you know what, sometimes people actually bring stuff to my face. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And I think it's great, because then I got that, I go to my team and I transfer that, that feedback.
And you have proof already by just showing the recording of this interview.
Yes, and I can say like, hey, here is a real people in our community, like our early adopters, people that are actually passionate about, they want to help us. So that's why that community we are building, and we want to expand it, and some of the community going to be public. So this, I think it's a new format, and I think that's why we want to pursue our goals, being a part of the community and get feedback from the community, not to ignore or pretend there is like, well, we are popular, great product, but there are just some of people there. So no, we are on the same level here.
I think that's a really great approach there. But there comes something to my mind that, that might be also an issue with this. I'm also a person in my inner circle. I talk to my members, my paperless movement is also something that is growing with the community. I react to the feedback of the community, what my inner circle want, I produce the new content and so on. However, we have to keep in mind those are mostly individuals with individual needs. And you talked about 1,200 people in your closed community, which is already pretty significant. But in the end, in your talk show, there are a few people talking to you, raising their issues, and they are very into your product. And why do I bring this up now? Because with the interview with Ian Small, he mentioned when I was talking about tags actually, and the usage of tags, and how important I personally think tags are in such platforms, he said only 2% of his users or of Evernote's users are using tags in there. And then I saw all the comments below the video saying, no way, 2% and so on. So what I did, I started a poll on all my social media platforms to ask, is it really the case? Who is using tags in Evernote? And the outcome was actually 50-50% actually using tags. But one person actually raised a very important thing there, because all the people following me, many people following me are really into these details, are using complex systems of the productivity system and so on, and try to drive their productivity systems to the best. But I'm sure, and that's might be the case, many using Evernote simply for note-taking. Maybe they don't need any complex structures, or they are not even aware that what they could bring to the next level. So I don't want to go too much into detail here, but this is really the thing about numbers, isn't it? And how can you be sure what is really important to implement then from this feedback that you get from you? Yeah, can't wait.
So just having a community, it's just a tip of the iceberg. So, it's like when you go to, when you go to a psychologist, what happens is you only one who talks and he listens, and then he tells actually what you need to get. So I'm really great in terms of customer development. That's why you remember I mentioned we're building not what people want, we're building what people need.
Yeah.
So the key is doing the right customer development, which is backed by analytics. And before that's what we do. We build a foundation of, let's say, some kind of functionality. Then we gather data. We listen to people. We interview personal. Some people getting use cases. So we double check that actually is we are on the right track. So then we roll out something and we repeat the process. So in this case, it's not only just getting features from. So it's not about features, because you can. Features doesn't matter. It's all about use cases and the goals. So that's why we have a new format and we're still testing. And I'm glad that you mentioned that what you do. I think we also can work with you also closer to get your experience, because you're more experienced in this, like working with people, talking to people.
Yeah, always happy.
Yeah, sure. And that's awesome. And we are here also to open to learn something new. And in terms of business and the personal use, so that's what we did in structure. If the way how we structured is, so the personal accounts for us. So think about Evernote or Notion. That's the whole area where you work. In our case, it's just one workspace, and you can have multiple workspaces, like for yourself and for your work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want more structure, you want more data, you create more workspaces. If your organization or team, so you get a higher level, which not only workspaces, now you can manage all of them, setting right permissions and branding. And if you are go even further, let's say a large company, you can have under one account, if you have multiple organizations. And we are working towards the white labeling, so all information is part of your brand, not ours. That's also the other things that we want to provide to some people, some cases. So in this case, people decide what they really want. If you want to have one workspace, it's totally up to you. You want to have 5 because you think that's for you personally it's going to be better. Okay, you have 5 workspaces, and that's how we structure it.
Yeah, and there the next issue rises that I see with many other platforms, especially when they say they're the all-in-one solution. We see something like ClickUp or even Notion tries to do this. And when I see in Nimbus and also in Evernote checkboxes to make task lists and all this, it is pretty limited in those platforms like Notion and Nimbus and Evernote, I can't, I would expect at least have a filter where I say, show me all my open checkboxes, for example. It's not there. It's not complaining. It is just something I also try in my own productivity systems, for example, to use Todoist as my personal task manager and find apps or platforms that very well integrate with the other platforms. So I rather have a list of different tools, but they do everything perfect because they're the best, instead of all-in-one solution. So how do you approach this?
So there are actually two things: being all-in-one for everything, or being all-in-one for something specific. That's I think two different things. So in terms of Notion, what I think is they have a Swiss knife, but for lots of things. And the problem with that, how I personally see it, is you get a lot of legacy of completely different solutions that you need to keep, and your production of development will go slow down over the time, because you need to develop something new. You don't know for which particular group you need to do this, because someone you have 20% using databases and 20% using calendar and a gallery.
Exactly.
So what are we going to do? So in our case, we are focused and we work towards information management. So yes, we do have a Swiss knife syndrome in a good way, but for something specific. So I don't think that we should right now try to pursue all of those, like a Kanban, mind map, everything at once. We want to go step by step, and that's why we want also to have a community that we are building right now. So it's not like we already have a finished community. So we're going to see down the road actually what our community, our early adopters, which way they want to go, which way we want to go, and we will keep focused. And I think in this case, we can succeed, but I really don't want to be a tool for every matter. I think it's better to integrate.
So you mentioned it already. It is for information management. What do you mean by that? What are really the areas you want to cover? Maybe before you answer, in my inner circle, I'm teaching the iCore framework, something I created in order to help people to get the different areas of a productivity system. So iCore stands for input, control, output, refine. And in input, we have the note-taking and document scanning and all this. Control, we have knowledge management. Output, we have productivity and so on. And there I tried to place the different tools. So we have, for example, something like Notion, and you can put it in all to the different areas. But the functionality spreads very thin, and the efficiency as well. And this is where they are. So where do you place your tool, and where is it overlapping areas?
Yes. So we're going to move towards more collaboration on information. In terms of once we start building ability to comment our blogs, we don't want to provide just to comment with a plain text. Our comments will be the same as what you everything have in a note. In this case, when you comment, you can comment with the same data that you're actually working on. So our focus is information and management. So which means all data that you put it is structured. It's very easily accessible, and the way how you input the information, it also differs, because we besides the web clipper, we are working on a Nimbus capture, which also for visual communication and annotation, which means you don't only put images and pictures. You have a tool that which you can use to record a screen and annotate it for collaboration or for the data. So let's say you work as a marketing agency and you found a great website. So instead of like making like hundreds of screenshots, let's say you record a video, you annotate it for yourself, and you store it inside that. And eventually we want to provide transcription. So you record it, you put it, and you have a transcription as well. So you save your time, because it's not only about achieving your goals, it's also about efficiency, how fast you achieve. And with all those Swiss knife solutions, the other downside is you spend more time maintaining the solution rather than accomplishing your initial goal.
Yeah.
So
I 100% agree with this. And I mentioned the iCore framework before, and there's the R, the refine part, which I refer to workflow automations and optimizations. So once you have this set up, go back and see where you can improve efficiency. And you just mentioned this. And when I'm a new user coming to Nimbus Node, I think the first impression is it looks very similar to the Evernote UI and also the UX in the first place, but once you start using Nimbus, it is much more refined when it comes to using blocks and adding the different content and tables and so on. So, but for the feeling, it is still Evernote feeling. So I have a list of notes in there that I can put into different folders. I have the tags and all this. My question now is, you mentioned information management and knowledge management. And this is something really important for me because I hate nothing more than searching for the notes or for the information that I took down at some point. And once I need it, I need more time finding the stuff. And isn't it, that's the time we waste all day when we look into our emails and try to find information again. So how do you manage to make it easy for people to find it compared to Evernote, for example, where we have only the options to go into a search field? Something I was wishing for example, is that I can build up mind maps or something like that, that just visually presents me the information that I need right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, so in terms of Evernote, I think it's overall that's a great company that totally disrupted the whole note-taking industry. And our structure it seems like the same because have this folders and tags, but actually it's at the same time it's different because we have an unlimited nested folder structure, which means you can organize your data in terms of how you do it on your computer. And we also have the tags. They are on the same level. They are not nested because we have folders. So tags help you to access nodes fast from different folders by certain criteria. And also you can bookmark this tag as well. But I think all Evernote users know about that. Yes, you mentioned editor. Yes, we have a completely different editor, which is more similar, I think, maybe towards Notion, but different technology.
It is true. It goes more direction to Notion rather than Evernote. But you just mentioned tags as the information management helper, put it this way. And I really think these things are so underestimated still. I mean, the digital movement in general, we are really on a position right now where people start to realize what is really helpful going digital. When we think about Evernote, when they started, it was the first time that people could add digital notes somewhere and find it somehow and make them searchable. And this is already the big thing. And when I look at handwriting note-taking apps, I make my handwriting searchable. And this is also a big thing. But I think we really need to change the complete thinking about how we approach these things. These folder structures, we are so stuck in these folder structures we are used to from our Windows Explorer or whatever, that I think taking something like tags or Roam Research with their flat or their no hierarchy, where I can have a node living in different places at the same time and then coming up when I need them. What is about tags? Because you said you're not nesting tags, they are just flat. In Evernote, I can nest them. So how important do you see tags in this information management setup?
Yes, so there are a couple of things here. So first of all, in terms of the structuring, since in our case you have a workspaces, it's a bigger structure. So let's say since the beginning you have you can have a personal use, and you have, for example, your business or something like that, that already separates two completely different things. We're going to work on a new UX actually in November. I just hired an additional developer. We're going to use, we fully updated our mobile platform already. So we're going to have a new UX, and part of it are going to be a new search, which we're going to call it refined search. That provides you to search by many criteria, almost like think about when you go to Amazon and when you search for something, you have so many options to search. So that's what we want to bring it up, and the ability you to save predefine such searches. So in this case, you decide what kind of search capabilities you want to have depending on your use cases. Regarding Roman research, I wasn't. I didn't try them as a service. I looked their website. I looked some videos. Definitely, there is some learning curve there. And it's more. I think it's more professional tools rather than someone just.
I think it's a very niche tool, and
Yeah.
I'm not using it for knowledge management. It is really taking notes and then, surfacing these things and automatically. I mean, the big advantage of Roam Research, and that's what I mentioned here as well for Nimbus and all the other things, is really the backlinking. So as soon I mention something, I get a list of all the mentions. And I think from a technical point of view, that's not a complicated thing. I mean, that's maybe the reason why Notion was handing this in so quickly, bringing in an update with their backlinks. And that's what I mean. It is something that people need to understand what backlinks can be used for. And before you answer, I saw also that you have already something great in place which Evernote doesn't have, is inline mentioning. So I can mention other people, other websites, other pages on Nimbus and so on by just using the @ sign. And that's exactly the direction I'm going here with this question.
So as I said, since we started later comparing to Notion, Evernote, so what you see right now is just the beginning.
Yeah.
So our goal was foundation. That's the most important. We don't want to be in situations then we build something and then we figure out how to redo it. So I think those things has to be happen on a regular basis. That's what we did. 2020 we did mobile. Now we're working on a desktop. So yes, so we do have already very great things in terms of, like when you can mention a specific node folder. When you type it, it automatically filters and date. Workspaces, etc. So other things that we are looking into hashtags inside the node. So the problem
now you're hitting a nerve here.
Yeah, so
that's good.
The problem with just traditional tags that we kind of inherited from Evernote is, yes, you can link certain nodes or pages, but the problem is the page can contain a lot of different data. So you need to have access to a specific blocks of data fast. So that's why hashtags will be one of those next things. Once we have a refined search, you can put the hashtags and backlinks, as you said, and we talked to our developers. Yes, it's not difficult to build in certain extent, like the way how Notion implemented. Yes, it's kind of easy.
Yeah.
The way how Roman research implemented, I think it's more complicated. I wasn't checking in detail, but since they are more professional tool, I don't know if like just like a regular user who wants to be more organized and even more professional organized, the way how your audience do, they actually need exactly as in Roman research. I think just having ability to have additional hashtags, backlinks, and then later on something like maybe like a mind map or some kind of like a visual structure, maybe not in traditional mind map. That's why we have a community and we want to be with some early adopters, heavy hardcore users, to figure out also the visual way how you want to see it. For example, on Mac, I like when you hit a hotkey and when you start typing, you get lots of like in columns, like a quick start of all data structure. Maybe we're going to do it this way. So we still need to research first.
Yeah, but that sounds really great. And I think with your new search feature, and by the way, I already like the existing search feature. I think it's already better than what Evernote offers there. This, including the hashtags, would be a game changer, I think, for Nimbus as well. And this is something I mentioned to Ian from Evernote as well. I think it is underestimated. And just because not many people using it doesn't mean that they don't need it. You just mentioned the difference between wanting and needing, but maybe there are a lot of people who might need it, but they don't know that they actually need it. So
what could be solution in our case, that's how I see it. That's why you need to have this approach where you create a tool, but for a specific area, not to be everywhere. In this case, let's say if someone need or don't need a text, they can turn it off, or they have a refined search, so they decide what they actually need.
Yeah.
So our idea is to provide more tools in terms for information management, and so people can configure what they actually need, and they can go to the settings. For example, I think we already have this option. Like some people want to have a traditional width of the node, but some people want to have like a full width, which is adjustable, depending how you work. Because we have columns, some people need columns, some people don't need columns. So that's why in our case, you can go and you decide what you want to have, how you want to use it. So that's where we bring like freedom. So when I mentioned we want to bring freedom, it's actually one of those key aspects. Your brand, that's your information, and that's a particular freedom in terms of information management.
Yeah, so I have two things there. One is finishing what we just talked about with the tags, but then I have to remember I want to switch to ClickUp. Or maybe bring this in. ClickUp has the option also when you create a workspace or even lists that you can choose what options you have in there. Do you have a time tracker? Don't you have? So you can set this up. This just sounded like that you're trying to do this as well, that if I have a white label version and I want to have my company to work in a certain way with Nimbus Node, I can set it up the way I want it, and my members are not able to use certain features. So this increases efficiency and decreases overwhelm, isn't it? So that's really a great approach, I think. But getting back to the tags and to the search thing, I just wanted to say that I think there's really a big opportunity there when you implement this, because going to Roam Research, what they have with their backlinks and the tags, if you name it, it works also like tags. You go, as soon you add a tag, you create a page. That's nothing else than just a page. When you click on this page, you see where this page is mentioned on a list of these things. And in fact is, for Nimbus Nodes, for example, I would add two tags, dog and cat, all right? To all my nodes, and then I have certain nodes where I have only dog, and where I have different nodes where I have cat. So when I am in a search field, I start to enter my hashtag dog, and I get all the dog and cats nodes. And then as soon as I say I don't want to have cats in there, or only dogs, then I get only the dog nodes. Without the cats. And that's what Roam Research helps you with, to really, they are mentioned obviously on so many different pages, your hashtags, but this makes it very easy to very quickly narrow down what you're actually looking for.
It's exclusion, I think.
And this is what you actually can do with a normal search functionality as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in our search right now, you can do exclusion. It's more like techie way.
It's exclusion then, yeah.
If I find I actually bring up a guide, so you can say in terms of like, I think it tags, you can say like I want to have and or, so you have operator and you have operator or. So
the not is missing.
Yes, so that's why once we get to refined search, we will make it more user friendly, and that's the whole idea. So you basically, it's like on Amazon Shopping, you just configure what you want, and the other convenience, I think you need to save that because every time go and configure every time the thing it's not also convenience, because it's efficiency. We also need to have a certain level of efficiency.
Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, it becomes too complex. That all sounds good. You mentioned the web clipper before, and that's something I was complaining by, a lot of different platforms already, especially Notion. The web clipper is just not very useful. But then I was really surprised about the web clipper you provide, because Evernote is known for their web clipper. And maybe OneNote is one web clipper that also works similar, but you provide even more with screen recording and so many other features. What are the plans for your web clipper? And maybe tell us more about the web clipper in general.
Yes. So first of all, it's going to be drastically improved, because currently this year we actually were more concentrated on a capture, recording, collaboration thing. We're working on a desktop version of our Nimbus capture solution, because Chrome browser very limits developers in terms of resources you can use in Chrome, because I think you can work in one thread. Sometimes you can use multiple threads in your CPU. So for web clipper is We already have several options, even to create a bookmark. You can not only clip, but you also can make a photo clip, that's how we call it. It's basically a screenshot and a text of the screenshot as well. Because one of the problems of web clipping is when you clip a complicated web page, it's not always possible to fully clip the way how you see. And when you save it, it's not how it's going to be look later, because you can't take all CSS files and save them correctly. That's unfortunate. That's why, let's say, we have photo clips. So you have a screenshot the way how it looked and the text. And Nimbus Capture helps you in some cases. If that part didn't work, so you can just record from your screen or take a screenshot and annotate. So from Web Clipper we got many requests. People want to have a server-side Web Clipper, which basically you send a link and we process on our end, and like a Get Pocket, with Pocket product. So people also want to have this part as well. So basically just send a link, we process it on our backend, and you get the article. So that's, I think, one of the next things that we're going to bring up. Because right now, when you clip, it happens on your site in your browser, an extension. So we basically take the same algorithm, we'll optimize it for a backend. And in some cases, you just hit a button and the URL goes to our backend server, we process it, and you get a result.
Oh, that's really interesting. And what I also saw that if you have the Nimbus Capture, which seems to be a separate product to Nimbus Node, this allows me then to store my screen recordings on G Drive or Dropbox, and that's something awesome that I heard there. So I don't have to store it on any other servers. It is still my file, because when I use something like Loom or all this, it's always stored somewhere, or Screencast or whatever I use. So that's interesting.
Yes, it's one of other things that we really, since going back to freedom, we don't want to hold you as like data hostage. So when you can't get your data, or if you can, but in a way that just good luck with that getting to you. So I mean, if you're comfortable using a Google Drive, even a Slack, we have the option that when sometimes some video recorders, when they upload share to Slack, they actually upload to themselves, and then they post a link. What we do, we actually post in Slack directly, so it doesn't go to our site as well.
Okay.
So that's why we want to provide more options working with information and the type of information you want to bring in. That's our current initial goal. Then we're going to help you to organize it, and then we're going to help you to retrieve this information efficiently and in a convenient way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I also saw is that you provide offline access, something that I'm still missing in Notion, because when I started to plan my travel and I had my flight ticket or something like that inside Notion, it's not accessible. So you provide offline access.
It's technology. Remember, I mentioned that we have a similar editors in some way, but we use different technology. So before the interview, you mentioned that you have many techie people that likes to talk about more in depth. So let's have some fun.
Let's go for exactly.
So we use CRDT technology for synchronization. So this technology, since the beginning, the whole idea is to build offline editing and online editing, bringing it together. As far as I know, but that's again in my personal opinion, Notion, they synchronize blocks separately, so they have just the way of how they do it synchronized. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm not 100% sure. We use CRDT technology, which I think you used in Google Docs as well. So basically, that technology out of the box doing all job for us. Where several people can work on the same node, someone going to work offline, and it gets merged in a correct way. So it's not like we just came up with some kind of new technology. That's very sophisticated and difficult. So we in some ways we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to use something that's already proven, and that's why we got quite a good offline editing, offline access in our solution, having this technology that right now on top we improve it.
So how does this work when one person works offline and deletes a sentence and another person edits this sentence or changes things on a sentence online? So how is this merged then afterwards?
I think it merged by time.
So who was the
for
faster
example,
one?
what's that?
Who was the faster?
I think it
We
goes by
win.
time.
Yeah.
So let's say when both of you work, someone actually started to do this operation
Mm,
faster, anyways.
mm,
So it means sometimes. So I think how it's going to work is if you deleted that symbol and that person is actually changed it, it was going to be looked by date or it's going to be merged. So that's where I'm not 100% sure right now. It's a very technical person for me. I need to check with our backend developers.
yeah.
But that's one of those things that we actually had a really hard problem before you remember I mentioned research and development so a few years before we actually started Nimbus.
Mm,
That's actually what we were doing. So we were thinking how we solve this problem. And this task is very complicated, and there
yeah.
are certain standards on the market, the way how people actually used to it. So CRDC technology is actually built for that. And so we decided to have the technology in place, which is proven, and we have that.
Well, then I have to find out what happens.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
let us know because yeah, it's interesting, and I think we actually accomplished this goal because that's one of the most challenging goals. Synchronization is very difficult, especially the more data you have, more object, more structures, and especially when you bring different tools that
Mhm.
quite not relevant to each other, you need to synchronize it. That's a completely different issue.
Okay.
So that's why we out of the box we use existing technology that actually can do this.
Okay. So now let's talk about databases. So because I had a look at how you manage databases or if there are any databases, and you mentioned that there are some which are tables and you can
Mhm.
build up tables. However,
Yeah.
for me, a database is really that I also can connect databases like I can do in Notion. Otherwise,
Mhm.
it is just a table living on a node. And if I
Yes.
can't access or, reference to this database on other nodes, it's not a database, in my opinion. So
You're totally right.
maybe you can talk about this and what you're planning there, or if it is just the way it is. Because Evernote doesn't has this option either. It's always tables, isn't it?
Yeah. So I actually like the format of your interview. Actually, you bring a hard time to the people, and you actually ask very targeted, specific questions. And I mentioned that
It
there
is
were.
actually my personal interest to get the answers
Yes,
to
yes,
this.
and I think it's
So
great. It's why we don't have just a like casual talk and
yeah.
we actually have a very specific
I
issues to
mean,
discuss.
casual talks, people can see this in the marketing mails.
Yes,
So I think we are here in an interview to get more details.
yes, and that's why I like it because our community that we're building is also like shows that we're actually doing even live, so it's even more harder.
Yeah.
So in terms of databases, yeah, it's in our case it's step-by-step process. So we got some foundation, we got a block editor, we got a table which is actually a mixed table, which basically have a spreadsheet, and you can merge several cells, and in that particular cells you can have one object, and in another column the whole column could be completely different. So we provide more flexibility.
Hmm.
And in terms of connecting tables, that's our next step. That's what we want to do in 2021.
Hmm.
Actually, to merge them or pivot tables, just to connect the data. And that's one of our current tasks right now. We're challenging because, to be honest, our tables slightly slow comparing, I think, to Notion.
Hmm.
Once they start building like lots of data, I think it's challenging. That's
Hmm.
what we're working on right now.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we want to bring this, but we don't want to limit people only to databases. With the same time, we want to provide some people to have just regular tables or
Yeah.
lightweight spreadsheet or a mixed one. It's all up to you. So we give you that freedom, and actually maybe people like you actually will figure out the different workflows and propose certain templates that we can have and provide to people in certain use cases.
Well, I have a wealth of ideas when it comes to database connection. As a heavy user of Notion as well, I think also they focus on databases the way you can build up workflows is very limiting, and the cross-referencing. So I might talk about this in a different video to go more detail. So I'm always happy to see the development on your side in this regards. So
Code.io. Have you checked the Code.io? I think they're also a very interesting approach to.
Sorry, say again.
Code.io.
Yeah, I like them as well. They have that's also something they just
I think that's where the
relaunched.
Notion and Coda they kind of intersect. They have their own game there. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and Airtables is also another option, isn't it? Where they really go all about tables. So it's always, you mentioned this already. Airtables, for example, this is just, again, too much tables. So I want to have the visual appealing part as well. And Notion is always the one that is mentioned that I can build up my own home this way, and other things are limiting. But yeah, that's all good. And
I think maybe in some way you need to, if you want to go like really professionally with databases, maybe you should connect Airtable into your inside. So we are working on embedding functionality. You can embed and bring other services like you can embed and edit Google Drive, Google Docs inside the Nimbus Note, all of those things. So maybe if you really want to have this as a professional tool, maybe it's an option to actually to embed, because it's not possible to build in one software several professional software. I mean, I really wish it, but since we know we developed not only Nimbus before other products, the company will get in situation when you got so much legacy and support. Yeah. So your new updates are going to be very, very slow.
You really have to focus on your...
Yeah. Yes, you will upset other people. So you implement something one, they're excited, but other people got upset.
Yeah, and I prefer something like this. So you have, and now you mentioned exactly what I was heading for now, is integration with other tools. So if you're not an all-in-one solution, which is good in my opinion, but then you need to have APIs and connection to other tools, and so I can synchronize my data and I don't have duplicated data. And Nimbus would be then for me the single source of truth, where everything else gets the data from. So how is your, what capabilities does Nimbus Node have there?
It's another great question. I really like these are all straight, like all great questions. So besides the bringing something like a standard, because otherwise we would be one another copy of everything. At the same time, we also focus on something unique that nobody have. And one of other things regarding integrations, if you have a Teams account and connected our Nimbus on your domain, so it's part of your domain, you can do JavaScript injections into individual workspaces or public pages. So here's an example. For example, you have a workspace for a group of people and you do consultants. So you can integrate intercom like chat right inside Nimbus Node. So which means if they have questions, you can use a professional tool for a support inside your workspace. And another workspace, you can inject a different solution and different tools, and you can inject multiple. For example, for public pages, if you need, you can inject, let's say, if you're in the marketing world, Facebook Pixel or Google Analytics, or call to action services, or you can do it inside the Nimbus Node. So you can bring a professional call to action service to welcome a people, ask them to answer some kind of questions, and then gonna close it. So that's one of those things, integrations that we brought up, and I think you can't get it in similar solutions to us out of the box, unless you do some kind of hacks.
Yeah, that also brings me to the point that I can easily build up dashboards this way, isn't it? So because as long as I can embed something using JavaScript, for example, I could build up a dashboard in Nimbus Node to have my my base where I have everything in one place, where I start my workday from before even going into other tools.
Yes, exactly. So that's injections. The other solution that goes inside the node area, our documents, is embedding, when you can embed other stuff. And also what you can do is you can embed nodes
into nodes as well. So basically, you can also like it's a approach of single source of truth. When you edit in one place, it gets updated everywhere. You can also embed our public pages into your website as well, and protect with password if needed. So it's not only like it's all about like working inside the Nimbus node. You can bring your data outside the Nimbus node and protect it if needed.
That's
API
really
you mentioned.
interesting.
Yes, we haven't started yet. Right now we are working on Zapier.
Yeah.
Because
I think
again,
that's the most important one to get first.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, step by step. We just don't want to not to jump on everything and do everything, but not like in a good way.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring up a Zapier. We already have it, so we are working on that. So then we have a community, we have a power users, we have people like you who were into integration. So we're gonna talk to you and say like, hey, so here is a Zapier, here is the use cases. So what do you think about it? Tell more about your use cases. So we want to understand not only why you want to have a API,
Why I want it, because why I need it. So you want to know
what do you want to achieve that?
Yeah.
And maybe based on other use cases, we can propose about you like, hey, how about that? And you yeah, it actually works and it works for everyone.
Yeah.
So API, one of other things. Also, we are working on our own embedded widgets, which means currently you can embed some kind of third-party services, but you get from other sources where you may not trust or you're not sure about it. So we will gonna have a collection of our widgets that we have it, and then we will invite developers that can create their own widgets for in our ecosystem. For example, if you know Figma, they let developers to, on top of that, build some functionality. We use Jira. In Jira, you have you can connect other tools. So widgets, one of the areas that we just provide to developers and they can work inside it. Later on, once we have an API, they will be able to interact with the data. So that's a next step, because the one goal is when you have this object and the object does something, but you need to have access to other objects, other data, and interact with that. So that's ultimate goal in terms of like having API, which I hope we're gonna have in 2021.
Well, that's really a great roadmap there, and that's really, I think a lot of people following this channel appreciate that you are so open and you show what you're planning on working on. And really great conversation. This is really, you know, I go into the nitty gritty and you had answers to all of them. So I really appreciate this. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, but I think we just reached a time where we have to make a different appointment at some point and talk about more things, because yeah, there's a wealth of information and good exchange we had here. So if people want to learn more about Nimbus Node, anything you want to share with my community before we close the interview?
So I think that first of all, and you're part of such community where you understand your goals and you help your community. So think about it, which goals you personally want to achieve, and not only the goal, because getting from A to point B, that's not only it. The way how you achieve that efficiency, that's what also important. So understand and then pick which solution you actually need for that efficiency and goals. And I urge you to give a shot. Just try Nimbus Node. There is nothing you can lose. We are we're a US company. You delete your account, we delete the data. We don't hold you as a data hostage, so you can export in a PDF, HTML, all documents attached in our archive. So I mean, you can always grab your data and just change the solution. So I mean, just try, take your time. We have a huge guide section with the motion graphics. It's not boring, so you can go over and visually see, not only reading. Not all people like just read.
Yeah, I prefer that as well, yeah.
Yes, we have a motion graphic on our website. Join our community. I personally, even on the weekends, I go and sometimes instead of spending time with my family, which I should, I go and respond to some of the comments as well. So try, contact us, have any questions. We'll be very open and glad to answer the questions. As you mentioned, you've been watching us for quite a bit of time, and you see how we grow. That's our advantage. We are very flexible. We don't need to make this fancy board meetings when I say like, hey, I want to build XYZ for our community, and the board members will say maybe you should cut something off so we actually generate more revenue. So we don't have such problems. This is why we can bring more features, more functionalities faster. I think it's our current advantage. So try us. I want to see your comments under the video. Share your ideas, feedback, and so I think that's it. So thanks for having me, and I also want to be part of your paperless movement as well, because that's basically what we all do.
That's great. So thank you very much, and we can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I think this was an awesome interview with Pavel from Nimbus Node. I cannot say how much I appreciate the details he was sharing with us and all the concepts and considerations they had. And, you know, I have the feeling that Pavel understands the issues we are facing as a community and also the challenges people have, but also taking the advantage of the future and the state-of-the-art technologies and also on. So I'm really looking forward to see the future development of Nimbus, and especially considering how Evernote is now pushing forward releasing features each week. This will be a real interesting race going on there. So I'm looking forward to talk to Pavel again in the future. And if you don't want to miss this episode or any other episode when I'm talking to product managers, CEOs, or my inner circle members when it comes to productivity, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll catch you up next time.